What if the secret to a really solid, calm mind wasn't some new app or life hack? What if it was actually a diagnostic tool that's like 2,500 years old? Well, today, we're going to crack open a really powerful framework for looking at our own minds, and it comes straight from this collection of ancient Pali texts.
It's funny, for thousands of years, all these wisdom traditions have basically been saying the same thing. Real clarity, it doesn't come from piling on more knowledge. It actually comes from seeing less, or rather, from seeing one single fundamental pattern in how we experience everything. So, what on earth is that pattern? Let's find out.
Okay, so according to these ancient texts, the Samyutta Nikaya, the answer isn't just one big aha moment. It's more like a four-part diagnosis. Think of it like a doctor's report, but for your mind.
All right, so this whole framework is what's known as the Four Noble Truths. And yeah, I know, the names look a little intimidating, but don't let that throw you. Seriously, think of these less as some grand philosophical pronouncements and more like four really practical, observable facts about what it's like to be us, day in and day out.
So the first truth is basically the diagnosis. It points to a symptom that, honestly, we all know. It's that subtle background hum of stress or just unsatisfactoriness, you know what I mean? The texts call this dukkha. And they're not saying life is all doom and gloom. It's more that this feeling is just woven into the fabric of an existence where things are always changing and we're not fully in control.
Okay, so if that's the symptom, what's the cause? Well, the second truth gets right to the origin of it all. It points to this relentless internal thirst or craving. The Pali word is tanha. It's that constant pull we feel, wanting this, not wanting that, wishing things were different than they are in this very moment. Sound familiar?
Now this is where things get really interesting. This is the turning point. The third truth gives us the prognosis. And you know what? It's incredibly hopeful. It says this stress, this dukkha, it's not a life sentence. It says that if we can just see that craving, that root cause, and learn to let it go, the stress just stops. It naturally fades away.
And finally, number 4. This is the prescription. And it's not some vague advice like just be happy or think positive. No, it's a super practical step-by-step treatment plan. It's called the Noble Eightfold Path. And it's basically a set of skills we can actually develop that cover everything from how we see the world to how we train our focus. Right. So if this whole 4-part thing is so clear and straightforward, why isn't it obvious to us all the time? It's a great question. And the texts have a pretty simple answer. Because our attention is constantly getting hijacked. We're always being pulled down this other path, the path of distraction.
And what's so cool is how these texts talk about our own minds. They basically say that every single moment, our thoughts give us a choice. It's a fork in the road. On one side, we can feed the distraction, thoughts about wanting something or being angry at someone. Or we can choose the other path. We can cultivate clarity by just applying this framework, by just noticing, this is stress. This is its origin.
And hey, this mental noise isn't just in our heads, right? The texts point to stuff we do every single day that just clouds everything up. Think about it. Getting sucked into endless online debates about things no one can ever prove. Getting into pointless arguments, even just idle gossip. They're not being judgmental. They're just saying, hey, look, this stuff doesn't actually lead to real insight.
So how in the world are we supposed to cut through all that noise? Well, to get our attention, to kind of shake us out of our sleepwalking, the texts do something brilliant. They don't just use dry logic. They hit us with these incredibly powerful gut punch metaphors to make us feel how urgent this really is.
Okay, check this out. They're basically saying that understanding this stuff isn't some casual hobby you pick up on a weekend. No way. It's more urgent than if your hair was literally on fire. I mean, imagine that. You wouldn't wait. You'd act right now. That's how high they're saying the stakes are. Here's another great one. It gets at a really key point about doing things in the right order. They say trying to find peace without first understanding these truths, it's like trying to build a second story of a house when you haven't even laid the foundation. It just doesn't work. It's going to collapse. You have to start with a clear view of the problem.
And then there's this last one, and it's just, wow. To show us just how precious this opportunity is, they give us this wild image. Picture this, a vast ocean. There's one single wooden ring, like a yoke, floating out there somewhere. And deep below, there's a blind sea turtle that only comes up for air once every 100 years. They say the chance to grasp this teaching is rarer than that turtle surfacing and by chance putting its head right through that tiny ring. It's mind-bogglingly rare.
So, okay, let's say we do it. We navigate the distractions, we take this urgent work seriously. What's the payoff?
What's the end result? What is a mind that really sees this stuff clearly? What does that even feel like?
Well, the texts give us two totally different pictures, a before and an after. They say that without this insight, our mind is like a piece of cotton fluff, just blown around by every little breeze, every change in fortune, every person's opinion. But with this insight, it becomes like a massive stone pillar, an indok kilo, rooted deep in the ground, completely unshakable no matter how hard the storm blows.
And that's really the heart of it. That's the goal. The result is a mind that just cannot be knocked off its center. It develops this deep, stable inner resilience. It's not about not feeling things, it's about not being shaken by them. Not by arguments, not by good luck or bad luck, not even by the chaos that can sometimes bobble up inside us.
So in the end, after all this, these 2,500-year-old texts leave us with a question. And it's not some big philosophical riddle. It's something very personal for right now. The path to this kind of clarity, they suggest, is always right here, available to us. And the very first step is just to look and ask yourself, what distractions are keeping me from seeing clearly?